If you suddenly found yourself managing projects without formal training, you're what's known as an accidental project manager. And this video is going to help you succeed. Let's be honest, you didn't set out to become a project manager. You were just the organized one, the reliable one, the person who got things done. But before you knew it, you were leading meetings, managing timelines, juggling deliverables, and wondering, hey, wait, when did this become my job? Welcome to the role of the accidental project manager. Hi, I'm Adriana Girdler, founder of Cornerstone Dynamics, project management and productivity firm. And over the past 2 decades, I have helped my fair share of accidental project managers who found themselves in project management roles without any kind of formal training. They were smart, capable, and motivated, but they didn't always feel confident or equipped. That's exactly why I created my Slay Project Management online course. So even though you may feel like you've been thrown into the deep end, you don't have to stay in survival mode. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 8 fundamental tips that will help you shift from feeling like you're out of your depth to feeling more like an expert so you can feel clear, capable, and confident in your role as a project manager. Okay, first up. Why is it important to know the language of project management? Well, one of the fastest ways to start feeling more confident as an accidental project manager is to get familiar with the basic language of the role. Now, you don't need to memorize a textbook, but knowing the key terms, I promise you, is going to help you communicate clearly and sound like you actually belong in the role. Let's walk through a few foundational terms that will come up again and again on every project. So the first one is scope. This defines what's included in the project and, just as importantly, what's not. Scope gives you boundaries. Without it, I promise you, people start adding new features, ideas, or requests without realizing the impact. When you're clear on the scope, you can manage expectations and keep your project from growing out of control because no one agreed on the limits. More on this a little later. The second thing is deliverables. These are the tangible things your project is expected to produce. That could be a finished report, a new website, a training session, a product update, anything that must be completed and handed off as part of the project's success. Every project should have, believe me, a very clear, defined deliverable so everyone knows what done looks like. The third one is milestones. Think of these as progress markers. They're key points along the way that indicate whether your project is on track. A milestone may be something like a design approval or a phase 1 complete, or even user testing starts. Milestone helps you report progress and catch issues early before you go too far and down the path. The fourth one is dependencies. These are tasks that are linked together, where one task cannot start until another one finishes. For example, you can't send an email campaign until the content is written and approved. So mapping out your dependencies helps you avoid delays and schedules things in the right order. The fifth is stakeholders. These are the people that have a say in or are affected by the project. And this includes everyone involved in the project, from your sponsor to team members to those who are receiving the deliverable. They might fund the project, use the end result, approve the work, or influence decisions along the way. And as the PM, one of your jobs is to understand who your stakeholders are, what they care about, and how to keep them informed and engaged throughout the project. When you understand and you use these terms confidently, things start to click. Your conversations get clearer. Your team knows what you're talking about. And most importantly, you start to feel like you're not just figuring things out accidentally. You're actually managing the project. Next, what do you need to understand about the project lifecycle? One of the most helpful things you can do as an accidental project manager is to learn the structure that underpins every project. no matter the size, no matter the industry or scope. That structure is called the project lifecycle, and it's made up of 5 stages: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring control, and closing. There are also documents that function as tools in each of these stages. And we'll talk about that and those a little bit later. But let's start with the understanding of the stages first. When you're clear on these, you can see where your project sits in that cycle. It's easier to stay focused on the right thing at the right time instead of trying to do everything all at once. So let's break it down so you understand it fully. Number 1, initiation is where the project gets defined, where you clarify what the project's all about, why it matters, and who's involved. During this stage, you'll often create a scope statement to outline what's included and what's not. It's also a good idea here to use a priority matrix tool to determine what's fixed, what's flexible, and where trade-offs might need to happen. This stage, I promise you, sets the foundation and helps you get alignment before you start building anything. The next one is planning. This is where you structure the work. You create your project charter, you build the work breakdown structure, which is known as the WBS, because you want to organize your task and to start mapping out your project timeline. You also start identifying risks, you start assigning roles and preparing for your kickoff meeting, which, by the way, officially launches the project plan. Now, planning is where most of your decision making happens. And the quality of this phase heavily influences everything that comes after. The third stage is execution. This is where the real work begins. This is when your team is actively delivering the task outlined in the plan. As the project manager, you're coordinating the work, you're resolving the issues, and making sure everyone stays focused on the goals. Monitor and control, this stage happens alongside execution. It's about tracking progress, watching for risks, managing changes, and making sure everything is staying within the scope, on time and on budget. You're also keeping stakeholders informed and adjusting the plan as needed. Now, the last stage, closing, well, this wraps everything up. You're handing off final deliverables, you're confirming completions with stakeholders, you're arranging for a proper handoff transition, documentation, also lessons learned, and making sure your team gets a recognition and closure they deserve. This stage, unfortunately, often gets rushed, but when done well, it helps you leave a lasting positive impression. So understanding the stages of a project lifecycle is so important that I've structured my entire SLAY project management course around them. And inside the course, I walk you through each phase step by step with the tools and the templates to help you feel less like an accidental project manager and more like someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Because when you understand the project lifecycle, you're no longer reacting in the moment. You're managing with purpose. And that's what separates accidental project managers from intentional ones. Before we jump into the next tip, I want to say this. If you're serious about leveling up your project management skills, this is exactly what I help people do. And I put together a free guide, yes, free, with the 6 project management basics that will help ensure project success. I'll put the link in the description box below. Okay, number 3. Why is it crucial to be crystal clear on your project management role? Well, one of the most common challenges accidental project managers face is actually role confusion, both from others and within themselves. Now, you may be thinking, oh, am I just keeping track of things? Am I the real decision maker? Am I supposed to have all the answers? Well, let's clear that up right now. Your job is to lead the project, not to do all the work and not to be the technical expert either. You're there to bring structure, to keep communication flowing, and make sure the project delivers on its goals. You're the connector between the people doing the work and the people expecting results. In real terms, what does that mean? Well, setting up the framework for how the team will work. Number 2, making sure everyone knows what the goal is and what success looks like and who's doing what. Number 3, raising red flags when risk popped up or decisions are delayed. Number 4, keeping the project visible and on track for both the team and stakeholders. You're not expected to build the product or fix the system or write the code, but you are expected to ask the right questions, identify roadblocks, and keep everyone focused on the outcome. You're the one holding the big picture. And when you're clear on that, it is a lot easier to stay grounded even when things get messy. So don't try to do everything and keep focused on enabling progress. That will shift you from feeling like an accidental project manager to an intentional one who is leading the project, not reacting to what's happening around. Tip 4. Why is planning directly linked with project success? If there's one thing I want every accidental project manager to know, it's this. Projects don't fail in the execution. They fail in planning. When planning is rushed or skipped, you lose alignment, expectations get fuzzy, and small issues snowball into big problems. But here's the good news. Planning doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be structured. Let's talk about the core planning tools I use on every project, and believe you me, no matter the size. Number 1 is the project charter. This gives you very clear foundation of what's going on. It outlines the goals, key stakeholders, timeline, what success looks like. It's your North Star, especially when things start to shift. Second thing is a priority matrix. It helps you figure out what's fixed, like the deadline, what's flexible, like the scope or budget, and where you might need to negotiate. It's a simple tool, but let me tell you, it brings so much clarity, especially when dealing with multiple stakeholders who all think their piece is at the top priority. The third one is the work breakdown structure, WBS. This is where you break the project into smaller, manageable chunks. It helps you and your team understand what needs to be done. And more importantly, in what order, before you ever start assigning tasks or building a schedule. And number 4, I don't want you to forget the scope statement. It clarifies what's included in the project and just as importantly, what's not. That's one line. This is out of scope that can save you hours of debate and protect your team's time. When you have these tools in place, I promise you stop guessing. You start leading with purpose. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to give your project a strong foundation. And if you want insight on what things to avoid, well, when you're project planning, I want you to check out my video on the topic. Go to the YouTube search bar and type Adriana Girdler project planning mistakes to check out. Because the truth is, good planning is what makes everything else possible. It drives clear communication, strong execution, and even stakeholder trust. All right, number 5. How can every project manager prepare for friction on their team? Yes, one of the most surprising challenges accidental project managers face isn't handling timelines or scope, it's the team dynamics. You can have a great plan, a clear schedule, and smart people, and still run into tension, delays, or miscommunication. This isn't failure, though. That's just part of the stages of team development. Most project teams actually go through 5 predictable stages of development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Understanding these stages helps you manage your team more effectively and avoid taking normal conflict personally. So let's run through those stages so you can understand it. The first one is forming, and forming is getting to know each other stage. People are polite, a little uncertain. They're trying to understand the rules and expectation. Your job here is to set structure, clarify the goal, and get people talking. Storming, which is number 2, is when the friction starts to show. This is where personalities clash, competing ideas, or role confusion can really emerge. Don't panic. This is normal. What matters is helping the team work through the discomfort. Keep lines of communication open and reinforce sharing goals. Now, you want to get out of this stage. In order to do that, you want to get into norming. And this is when things start to click. The team has worked through the tough stuff, roles are clear, and people are starting to collaborate more effectively. And then comes the Piece de resistance, which is performing. Oh, it's an amazing stage. And this is a sweet spot. The team is aligned, focused, and moving forward with less oversight. And as the PM, your role shifts here towards support and removing obstacles. And the last is adjourning. It comes at the end of the project. It's the wrap up, the wind down. People shift focus, and sometimes there's a mix of relief and loss, especially for teams that worked really, really well together. Now, what's important to remember is this. Just because your team hits the storming phase doesn't mean the project's in trouble. It means your team is developing. Your role is to guide them through that process. And to do that, you want to be patient, structured, and have clear communication. And when you know what to expect, team conflict, well, becomes something you can manage, not something that makes you freeze up. Tip 6, how crucial is it to track risk early in a project? When you don't have any formal training in project management, it is easy to focus entirely on the task list. I get it. But experienced project managers know that it's not just about what's planned. It's about what might go off the track. That's where risk management comes in. A risk really is anything that could happen in the future that might impact your project. It hasn't happened yet, but if it does, it could affect your timeline, your budget, your scope, and your team. So, as an example, if your project depends on external approvals, one risk might be that there's a chance the legal review could take longer than expected, and that's a risk worth tracking, because if it happens, it could delay the whole schedule. And if you've thought through that possibility in advance, well, you're already ahead of the curve. Now, risk management isn't about predicting the future. It's about being ready for it. You don't need anything fancy. A simple risk log works. Just track what the risk is, how likely it is, what's the impact would be, and what your plan is to mitigate or respond to it. When you actively manage risks, you build trust with your team, with your sponsor, and with yourself. You show that you're not just reacting to problems, you're thinking ahead and leading proactively. Risk planning might not feel urgent on day one of a project, but trust me, it becomes very important when things get shaky. And project managers who are prepared are the ones who stay calm and carry on. Tip 7. Now let's look at this. Why is scope creep a real danger on every project? You start with a clear plan, everyone agrees on the goal, and then things start to shift. Stakeholder asks for just one more thing. Someone on the team adds a new feature they think would be helpful. A department head wants a different format, a different timeline, or a whole new deliverable. That's scope creep. And when your project gradually expands beyond what was originally agreed, well, it has problems. And if you don't manage it, it will quietly derail your timeline, budget, and team capacity. Now, here's the thing. Changes aren't bad. In fact, some of them are necessary, but they need to be evaluated, not absorbed silently. You need to ensure any changes are in line with the priorities identified during the early stages of your project. That's where change control comes in. You don't need a complicated process, just a consistent one. So something like this is what I recommend. First, capture the request. What's being asked and by whom? Then you want to assess the impact. How will this affect scope, timeline, resource, or cost? Then you got to make a decision. Do we accept, delay, or reject the change? And who approves it? And don't forget, communicate, 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 and document. Make sure the team knows what's changing and update your plan accordingly. Having even a basic change control process builds your credibility. It shows that you're not resisting change, you're actually managing it. And most importantly, it protects your team because every change has a cost, period. And it's your job to make sure that cost is understood and agreed upon before the work begins. I recommend introducing change control early. At the kickoff meeting is a great place to explain it to the team and to set expectations. That way you reduce friction, you increase transparency, and you can make better decisions under pressure. Tip 8, and finally, my last tip here. How can a project manager lead to get everyone aligned? If you've ever felt like the least qualified person in the room, well, you're not alone. Many accidental project managers assume they need to know more, do more, or somehow prove they belong at the table. But here's the truth. Your role isn't to be the expert in everything. It's to bring everyone else's expertise together, keep the whole thing moving, and hold all the pieces of the project in place. Now, that means communicating clearly so people understand the goals, the expectations, and what's changing. It also means coordinating effectively so tasks, timelines, and handoffs, well, they don't just get lost or delayed. It also means drawing on the right expertise so the right people are solving the right problems at the right time. Also, asking the right questions rather than being expected to know everything. You need to ask great questions like this. What is a risk here? Who needs to be involved in this decision? Or what's the impact if this piece gets delayed? You bring the structure, focus, and accountability that allows your subject matter experts to do their best work. That's no small role. Make no mistake, it's a leadership role. So if you've been quietly holding everything together behind the scenes, feeling like an imposter as an accidental project manager, well, it's time to step into your role with 2 feet. You're not just keeping track of things, you're leading, you're managing, and you're making the project possible. And if you're ready to move out of feeling accidental to having structure, clarity, and confidence, well, I'm here to support you with my Slay Project Management course. It's designed to help you build real-world project management skills, step by step. If you still have questions about what skills you need to become an expert project manager, watch this next video where I talk about the crucial skills every project manager needs.